Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Daybreak Stories, a subseries of Daybreak dedicated to telling what happens behind the scenes and on set of the talk show. So let's get started. This is an episode, I don't remember which number it is, flipped interview, and today we have a guest, Kraaijvanger. So back last year during the fourth season of Daybreak, we did a flipped interview where I interviewed Riley for the first part of it, which was 20 minutes. And then we flipped it, and she was the host, and I was the guest for the last 20 minutes. And actually, we forgot to do a game at the end, but it was fine. It was so much fun. So, Riley, let me ask you, what was, how did you come up with the idea for doing an episode like that?
Okay, that's a good question. I think I kind of, well, I know that it's fun to mix things up a little bit and kind of not always keep the same routine. So with life and with Daybreak and shows and everything. So I thought it would be really interesting to kind of do something out of the box like that. And I thought that it would be really fun for me to ask you more about Daybreak because I know a lot of people don't really know how the idea came to you and how everything that we talked about in that episode about Daybreak and about you. I thought it would be really interesting for the guests and everyone watching the show to know more about you as the host. So I thought that would be really fun, and I just wanted to try interviewing and see what that was like because you did it so well, so I kinda wanted to try it and be like, "Oh, okay, so this is how he does it."
Well, how was it?
I really liked it. I thought that it's definitely for me, it was probably more stressful than being the guest because I felt like there's more pressure on you to kind of lead the conversation and like make sure you're on time and you're kind of like keeping your guest on track. But then also like it was also really fun because you do kind of get to decide like what questions you ask your guest and you get to hear their responses and it's really interesting to get to know the person that you're interviewing better.
Yeah, it was quite interesting because for me to have to switch from my host mindset to the being I've never been a guest before. So I was keeping my host habits of checking the time constantly, trying to monitor how well I'm doing. And I know that you were the host, but I was also like evaluating how you were speaking. My brain was just like, you're a host, you're not a guest, so act like a host. Like, I think in the video, um, I was speaking, and I say, I just realized you're out of time because I was constantly checking the time.
Yeah.
If you go and watch the episode, uh, but I had you think that being the host was the most stressful. I was like panicking in my head because I'm like, with the point of not sharing the questions with the guests. I'm sure I've said this a lot of many times. Is so that the answers are authentic and they're not planned and they're just like a lot of talk shows they have rehearsals and everything, and so it's like, okay, well, it's not really that authentic. This is like, there's no rehearsal. You go and you hope it goes well.
Yeah.
um and so not knowing that, I thought that not knowing the questions is like, oh, okay, I just don't know the questions, I'll just answer whatever he asks me. But being the one to not know the questions, as someone who usually does know the questions, was like, oh god, I don't know how I'm going to answer these. Like, this is terrifying. Like, so it gave me a bit of insight as to what the guest experience is.
Yeah.
Um, what do you think the hardest part of being a host was?
I think the hardest part of being a host was trying to naturally steer the conversation because it's one thing to kind of have like scripted questions and kind of like answer and then like have your guest answer and then you ask the next question, but that the flow of the conversation isn't very it doesn't flow. It kind of just feels like blocky and like okay, so question answer. So
Right.
I think it was definitely an interesting challenge to kind of figure out how to have a conversation be like structured like an interview with questions and answers, but also have the flow of the conversation feel natural and interesting for people to watch and to learn about you in like a conversation sort of way.
Yeah, I mentioned in the host interviews that actually we just recorded that I started Daybreak as a way of conversing with my friends and people who I don't talk to that often. So trying to get that conversational aspect into an interview is quite difficult.
Yeah.
Um, and it's still something I'm working on all the time. Because you're right, when you're speaking, even when people say, "Oh, you did that really well," like you transition well, in your head, you're just like, "Ah, that could have been smoother."
Yeah.
Like you're always working on it and trying. That is definitely the hardest part about being the host is trying to, especially if the person doesn't answer in into depth and they go like yes or no answers. Like you have to fill the gap and try and make it seem like that was what's supposed to. Like when you're a host, it's not planned, but you want to make it seem like it was rehearsed 100 times so it seems smooth. So
Yeah.
trying to fill the gaps if someone doesn't answer fully is very, very hard. Um, Now you can be completely honest. Was there any point in the interview where you were hoping for an answer that you didn't get?
No, I don't think I was because I think a lot of my questions were pretty open-ended. So I kind of really just wanted to hear like your thoughts on these different things. So I think that it was good like that where I wasn't really expecting one type of answer or another. So I think that was good, but there were definitely some kind of like moments when I did have like a few outlines of questions, so I needed to like kind of think about how I wanted to transition into the next part of the interview. So
Right.
that was like kind of like having to think on my feet a little bit and make sure that I could connect your answer to like the next segment that I wanted to get into. So I think
Right.
that that was definitely something, and that was probably another part of why being a host was challenging because it's like finding a way to incorporate the guests' answers into each of your questions and kind of getting that like getting the flow. I think that that's really important to kind of make it seem like a natural progression and make sure everything feels connected and kind of like one coherent interview instead of a bunch of different pieces.
Right. Yeah. It in terms of so you've been a host now, and you'll be doing a full episode in this season of Daybreak 2021. When you interviewed me a few minutes ago, well, yeah, when you interviewed me a few minutes ago on the host interviews, and when you were interviewing me about Daybreak in July, I don't know when it exactly was, but it was sometime in the summer of last year. When I speak about being a host, can you now relate to things that I am saying?
Yeah, I think I definitely can. I feel like not um on the same level because you're definitely like you are the one kind of coming up with a lot of the updates and how you want Daybreak to kind of go from here on out. So and then like I do kind of like talk with you about it on the board of ideas, but it's given me a lot of perspective onto how much work and effort you are putting into Daybreak and how hard it is to be a host and kind of like because it sometimes I feel like people might just think, oh, you're just asking questions and like, but it's definitely it takes a lot of conversational skills to be like to kind of make it seem like a natural conversation instead of just an interview.
Yeah, it from if you're looking at it from afar, you're just like, oh, they're just having a, yeah, as you're saying, it's just like you're having a conversation. But really, you're trying to make an interrogation look like a conversation.
Yeah.
So you have to. And I had this issue at the start of Daybreak. I didn't really smile that often, and so it seemed like I was really hating what I was doing. I wasn't, but it's just I was trying to be professional, which didn't turn out well. So I'm smiling a lot more, if you can see during this whatever this is. Um, but you have to. It seems like basics and rudimentary, but you have to seem like a person when you're interviewing. You can't seem like a robot. So yeah, trying to make it seem conversational is definitely the most difficult part of being a host. Now, so you interviewed me a few minutes ago, I
Mhm.
think, unless time flies. But you interviewed me in the last thing we just did, the host interviews, and now you're almost sort of like a semi guest.
Mhm.
And this was like what I was experiencing when I had to interview you and then be a guest. So is it interesting to switch your mindset from being a host to being a guest?
Yeah, I think it is. It's definitely it is a different like role that you're kind of playing in the show. So I think there's that switch and kind of being from the one directing the conversation and asking the questions to the one kind of like answering the questions and keeping the conversation on that interesting switch. And when you're a host, direct and kind of have the guest answer and talk in like the the way that like you kind of are hoping for the interview to go. So I think there is that switch of like going from directing the conversation to kind of following the conversation. But there's also, I feel like as a guest, there is like there's also more freedom to kind of talk about whatever you want to talk about. And as a host, it's kind of like trying to keep things on track. So that's also a fun switch to kind of get to be able to talk more and get to elaborate. And then as a host, it's more like, and this isn't exactly like a normal interview. So
Right.
there is like more freedom for the host. But usually it's more like more direct instead of getting to talk about their answers with them and things like that.
Yeah. The thing I wanted to do with having I call it actually a co-host when we're doing Daybreak Stories, because it's supposed to be more of a regular conversation rather than an interview. Um, and what I found interesting about doing that episode with you and just doing the host interviews is that as a host, you are can you understand me? Sorry.
I'm sorry, I think you just cut out for a second.
Yeah, the Wi-Fi in this house is absolutely terrible. It's been going on and off like all weekend. So hopefully we can get through this. There's not much longer. But being a host as a guest, you do answer the questions, but you're also sort of understanding what your host is doing. Like I've been hosting this show for months. And so when you were hosting me, I was picking up on all the things that you were doing because I'm like, oh, I've done that, or I do this. And so I'm like, oh, that's clever. Like, and I was also learning. So like you are a very kind person. So you smile like when we did our season finale, I think there was not a moment where you weren't smiling during that season finale episode. And that was an amazing episode. You're with your pet. What was it? Pet aliens or something? No, bacteria. It was bacteria.
Yeah.
Um, but when you're the guest, you're sort of like, oh, I can do that. What she's doing, right? I do this. So like, it's interesting to be a host and then have someone else host you and pick up on those things.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And I think like it's exactly what you said, how it's interesting to kind of there is a switch in what you're doing, but there's also like there is a better understanding now with these episodes. Like when you ask me a question, like, oh, that's a good question. Like if I was interviewing, I would have probably asked something similar. Other person is kind of talking about with you, which I think is really cool.
Yeah. For the viewers, the Wi-Fi, I would say the most difficult. I think you asked me this question. What's the most difficult thing? I keep changing my answer, but as I experience more things, I think the most difficult thing with definitely doing it remotely is connection. We had an
Mhm.
episode with Bianca Anderson, my God, that I think we got about 10 minutes of footage because the other 10 minutes was just glitching and then re-entering the call and redoing it over and over again, trying to get it to work. And it's blurry and just cutting out of voices. And my Wi-Fi has been acting very strange recently. And so I was on a call with my friend the other day and it kept cutting out and I had to leave and rejoin. And so the most difficult part of doing an episode would probably be just trying to actually do the episode because the Wi-Fi is just so annoying. Anyways, I don't remember what I asked you.
I don't either. I think it was about kind of what it's like switching from host and guest.
Yes,
Yeah.
I will. I think it's a good place to end actually because,
Okay. Yeah.
as I say in other Daybreak episodes, I've told all there is about the. Oh my God, I have messed up my ending. I've told all there is to tell about this story. If you want to hear any more stories about Daybreak, please go look on the YouTube channel. We have a number of Daybreak Stories episodes. More will be coming out in the future. And go check out the website to see what future topics there will be. They're all listed there. Please go check out the website. I worked very hard on that website. I really like it to be viewed. So yeah, I'll link that in the description of this video. But thank you everyone for your continued support with Daybreak. Thank you for watching, and everyone have an amazing day or night, depending when you're watching this.